was drunk fucking water with the top on it. Bear with me, y'all, while I start like setting this stuff up. Like, make sure y'all get this video a thumbs up. Let us know who in the chat. Damn, dog wanna be scratching on the door. You luckily I ain't started this book yet. Come on. As y'all can see, we're now listening to Think and Grow Rich tonight. I wanted people to actually read that book on their own. I didn't want to just do the whole book. I could have. I might continue maybe a couple days from now or whatever, but I wanted to listen to another book. This book is called The Game of Life and How to Play It. This is by Florence Scovel Shinn. She's passed away. She's been gone for a long time. But she wrote this book in 1925, and it's like another one of my favorite books. That got a lot of game in it. Talks a lot about the mind. Whatever you want, you can have. Whatever you think, you can have. Uh, it's all about your attitude, different things. So people coming in and they leaving out, just make sure you hit that thumbs up button. That's gonna help with the algorithm, help with getting my video seen. I really do appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get this book started. This book only 2 hours long, so not that bad.
The Game of Life and How to Play It was originally published in 1925. Florence Scovel Shinn was born in New Jersey in 1940. She was an American artist and book illustrator, and also a mystical spiritual teacher like Neville Goddard. Her time of teaching was a few decades before Neville's. There's no doubt in my mind that Neville must have come across some of her work in some of the metaphysical books he read early on in his life. Although I came across this author some time ago, I'd like to thank my viewers like Renee for bringing it up again to me, because it is really such a wonderful book and very timely. And though I planned to read excerpts of this book, I probably ended up reading 99% of it. And without further ado, Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It, chapters 1 through 10. Excerpts from The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. Chapter 1. The Game. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle, it is a game. It is a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law, and the Old and the New Testament give the rules of the game with wonderful clearness. If he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives love, he will receive love. If he gives criticism, he will receive criticism. If he lies, he will be lied to. If he cheats, he will be cheated. We are taught also that the imagining faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. This means that what man images sooner or later externalizes in his affairs. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it continually and read about it until it manifested in his body and he died, the victim of distorted imagination. So we see, to play successfully the game of life, we must train the imaging faculty. A person with an imaging faculty trained to image only good brings into his life every righteous desire of his heart: health, wealth, love, friends, perfect self-expression, his highest ideals. The imagination has been called the scissors of the mind, and it is ever cutting day by day the pictures man sees there, and sooner or later he meets his own creations in his outer world. To train the imagination successfully, Man must understand the workings of his mind. The Greeks said, "Know thyself." There are three departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. The subconscious is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. Whatever man feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out in minutest detail. For example, a woman I know, when a child, always made believe she was a widow. She dressed up in black clothes and wore a long black veil, and people thought she was very clever and amusing. She grew up and married a man with whom she was deeply in love. In a short time he died, and she wore black and a sweeping veil for many years. The picture of herself as a widow was impressed
How
upon the
you doing
subconscious
tonight,
mind,
Daniel? Like
and
I'm
in due
doing pretty
time
well
worked
myself.
itself out, regardless of the havoc created. The conscious mind has been
Another
called
day, another dollar. I don't know if y'all aware of this book, but this book is just like Think and Grow Rich. This book just like The Secret, all those other mindset books that's gonna help you manifest the life you want. And in the beginning of this book, like it talks about how a man who was afraid of a disease feared this disease that was so hard to get that he ended up getting it because that's what his mind was trained on. Like so, you can commit suicide by not just pulling a trigger or like jumping off a bridge, which is mentally you can kill yourself. So your mind is powerful. Thoughts are powerful.
mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind and sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses the subconscious. The superconscious mind is the God mind within each man, and is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern, spoken of by Plato, the divine design. For there is a divine design for each person. There is a place that you are to fill and no one else can fill, something you are to do, which no one else can do. There is a perfect picture of this in the superconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable ideal, something too good to be true. In reality, it is man's true destiny or destination, flashed to him from the infinite intelligence which is within himself. Many people, however, are in ignorance of their true destinies and are striving for things and situations which do not belong to them and would only bring failure and dissatisfaction if attained. For example, a woman came to me and asked me to speak the word, that she would marry a certain man with whom she was very much in love. She called him A. B. I replied that this would be a violation of spiritual law, but that I would speak the word for the right man, the divine selection, the man who belonged to her by divine right. I added, if A. B. is the right man, you can't lose him, and if he isn't, you will receive his equivalent. She saw A. B. frequently, but no headway was made in their friendship. One evening she called and said, "Do you know, for the last week, A. B. hasn't seemed so wonderful to me." I replied, "Maybe he is not the divine selection. Another man may be the right one." Soon after that, she met another man who fell in love with her at once, and who said she was his ideal. In fact, he said all the things that she had always wished A. B. would say to her. She remarked, it was quite uncanny. She soon returned his love and lost all interest in A. B. This shows the law of substitution. A right idea was substituted for a wrong one. Therefore, there is no loss or sacrifice involved. Many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words. For example, a woman once asked me why her life was now one of poverty, of limitation. Formerly, she had a home, was surrounded by beautiful things, and had often tired of the management of her home, and had said repeatedly, "I'm sick and tired of things. I wish I lived in a trunk." And she added, "Today I am living in that trunk." She had spoken herself into a trunk. The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. For example, a woman who had a great deal of money joked continually about getting ready for the poorhouse. In a few years, she was almost destitute, having impressed the subconscious mind with a picture of lack and limitation. Fortunately, the law works both ways. and the situation of lack may be changed to one of plenty. For example, a woman came to me one hot summer's day for treatment for prosperity. She was worn out, dejected, and discouraged. She said she possessed just $8 in the world. I said, good, well, bless the $8 and multiply them, as Jesus Christ multiplied the loaves and fishes. For he taught that every man has the power to bless and to multiply, to heal and to prosper. She said, what shall I do next? I replied, follow intuition. I replied, follow intuition. Have you a hunch to do anything or to go anywhere? Intuition means intuition or to be taught from within. It is man's unerring guide, and I will deal more fully with its law in a following chapter. The woman replied, I don't know. I seem to have a hunch to go home. I've just enough money for car fare. Her home was in a distant city and was one of lack and limitation. And the reasoning mind or intellect would have said, stay in New York and get work and make some money. I replied, then go home. Never violate a hunch. I spoke the following words for her. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance, for she is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right. I told her to repeat it continually also. She left for home immediately, and calling on a woman one day, she linked up with an old friend of her family. Through this friend, she
Like
received
nowadays, the
thousands
way
of
to get
dollars in
rich
a
is
most miraculous way.
army or being
She has
lucky,
said to me
knowing somebody
often,
that put you on,
tell people
man.
about the woman who came to you with
Hey,
$8 and a hunch.
the army is not the way to get rich. Like, I don't know. I went into the meaning of going into the military when I'm 18, 17, 16. Like, yes, like going into the military was the best thing for me. It brought me funds, income that I needed at the time. But when I look back on it years later, if I was still making the same amount of money I'm making now, like being in the military, like I mean, I make way more money now. Basically, you can make good money in the military, especially when you deploy places like Afghanistan. You get like hazardous pay, so like they up your pay, but you putting your life on the line. Like so, the army, what it's good for is like it's placing you. You don't have to worry about bills unless you married, got kids. Like if you single and you go into the military, you ain't got to worry about bills. You ain't got to worry about eating, clothing, none of that. Like so, you getting the paycheck and it's like a free paycheck constantly, but it's not. You're not getting paid that much. But you also said like knowing somebody that puts you on. That's hey, my brothers, like I got two brothers. Like one got 1 million subscribers, one got 8 million subscribers. I could have easily asked them to put me on, like help me get my subscribers up, but I didn't want that. You don't want that. You don't want somebody just putting you on, giving you something, because that, no, depending on the type of person that person is, they can always hold that over your head. Like so, me like reading the books, Think and Grow Rich, and is the game of life, how to play it. Like I know, don't I ain't gotta depend on nobody to give me anything to get my success. Like for the past 3 years, I've been like building my shit up. Nobody seen it. I'm not famous, or I ain't that famous, but nobody seen what I was doing in the background. But every day I was putting in like some type of work, whether it was reading books, whether it's dedicating time to my podcast, like whether it's just trying to figure out like how to get my YouTube. Like I've always focused on like building my own, like getting it for myself. So, but if I play it smart, I can get a full VA house loans and free college. Like I can go. Yeah, if your goal is to go into the military, like me, I got first of all, I'm 100% disabled, so I don't have to work a day in my life. Second, I can get use my VA home loan when it's time. Like I'm not ready to use it yet, but I do have that. I've went to college for free. I just graduated from cybersecurity school, but I don't want to work. Like I'm not planning on getting no job in that. I just want the information. Like then my kids, they set to go to school. Like they don't have to pay for college. So the military is a great way to build your foundation. Like especially if you play your cards right. But if you don't, if things don't work out in your favor, then that's just gonna be like a bad thing on your behalf. But we don't speak no negativity. If your goal is to go into the military and get paid, go hey, go do that shit. Like if that's what your intuition is leading you to do, follow your intuition like this book saying. If you want something in life, listen, like ask, pray, whatever you want to do, meditate on it, then follow your intuition. Follow your gut, follow the hunches. If you don't follow that, then you're only gonna like go the wrong way. You're not gonna manifest what you want when you don't listen to yourself. When you don't follow the signs that the universe is putting right there in front of you, you will regret it. But I definitely did go into the military. It worked out for me. It works out for me today. I've been out since 2012, like so. Hey, and I got an honorable discharge, so it definitely worked out in my favor. But I wanted to go into the military. My whole goal was to do 20 years. Like I got end up getting married, and like my ex-wife was like, "Nah, I don't want you to keep deploying," so I ended up getting out. But I wanted to be stationed in Hawaii for like the next 10, 15 years. Like, but it didn't work out like that for me. I'm 18. You feel me? The only thing right now is settle money and making sure my future kids are good. And the army seems like the best option. Hey, if you 18 right now, you're in the perfect position. Hey, I would go into the military if I was you. 18, go. What job do you want to work in the middle? Like, what? You gotta have a plan. You have to have a goal. I ain't have none of that. At 18, I ain't have no type of ambition. I ain't know who I wanted to be. I ain't know what I wanted to do in life. I just knew I wanted to go into the military because my older brother did. Like, but if I can go back to 18, like, boy, man, because I done made so many mistakes. I done bumped my head so many times just in life general. Like, but me going into the Marines, like, that did change my life for the better. It put me in a position I wanted to be in today. Like, so I will always encourage, like, if that's your first choice, do it. If it's your last choice, last resort, do it. Like, it's a good way to get out of your environment. You don't have to stay in the same city you grew up in, and like it comes with a lot of benefits. Like so, if you 18, like hold off on the kids. Me, I had my first son like when I was 19, so like I got 7 kids. My kids would, I ain't gonna say my kids held me back, but my kids slowed me down as far as like a lot of stuff in life. But now they just maximize everything I got going on. Like so. Oh yeah, you did say you want to be a mechanic, so I can come out after my 3 year term and be set with a job outside. Me, I went into the military. I was a chef. So when I got out, of course, I could work anywhere. I still to this day, if I wanted to get a job, I can go to any restaurant. And I live in Las Vegas, like, and there's a bunch of like fine restaurants, expensive, nice restaurants that I could work and make easily $20 an hour. But that's not what I want to do. It was cool when I was younger, but I'm 31 now. Like I'm not looking to work for nobody but myself. So you 18, you got your whole world ahead of you. Like I said, if I could just turn back the hands of time and I could listen to myself, if I could just, my 18-year-old could find somebody like me who I am today, and then just pay attention to that person, I'd be like, I'd have probably been at least, I'd have made $20 million in my life already by the time I was 31. If I was 18 and I was in a live like listening to me, I'd have made 20 million by the time I was 31. But I didn't fucking learn my lessons until I was late 20s. Like so, you on the right path already. Like so, shout out to you, Daniel, because a lot of people, as soon as they graduate from high school, they think they grown, they think they know everything, but you have no idea what would you say I should invest my money in, or like what type of business to start up so I can start working for someone else after my term? If you gonna go into the military, it ain't you don't even need no type of like you should be investing like in stocks. Like so me, like I'm not no financial advisor. I don't give that type of advice, but I do invest in stocks. Like every month I invest. Like so, and that's just like I use my stocks as a savings for me. I don't use the bank because you don't make no money with your money in the bank. Like so, every month I'm investing at least 10% of whatever I make into stocks. So, and that's just not for it to grow overnight, me to get rich overnight. This is a lifetime thing. So, like, is me, I love Teslas. Like so, I'm gonna invest in Tesla. I like Apple. Apple is one of my favorite company. I got an Apple Watch right now. I'm using the Apple phone to record this live. So of course, I'm going to invest in Apple. Then there's different uh, other type of stocks like ETFs. Once again, I'm not a professional on it, so I can't really dive into it. But as long as you invest in something and you study, do your own research, that's all you need. Like just do your own research and what you want to invest in, but invest because the military is not will not get you rich. You can stay in the military 20 years and you won't be rich. No problem. Like I said, Dan, you in the right position, right? You in the best position you could ever be in. Listen to more books like Think and Grow Rich. This book we listened to, The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's gonna spark different ideas in you. Like where shit, it's just gonna be like if you capitalize off those ideas, the ideas that come into your head, and you just don't let them go to waste and forget about them. Like you'll be a rich man by the time you my age, and that's even if you do military 3 years. Like you still be able to be 21. As soon as I got out the military, I started failing in life. Like I said, I didn't have no type of goal. I didn't have no type of plan. I didn't even know how to save money. I didn't start saving money till recently. So me, it was back then. It was 4 year terms. Like so, I did 4 years in the Marine, and I had made probably total in 4 years. I probably say I made $100,000, around $100,000. The day I got out of the military, I had $0 saved up. I had 3 kids already. I had a car note, rent, bills, and I couldn't afford none of that. Like so, I started failing from like 2012 on up to like 2015 before I like started like getting back my footing in life. But 2017 is when I learned about the law of attraction. That's what truly changed my life. Like, and since I'm a reader, like I didn't read so many books. Like after that, and it really changed my life because I wasn't going down the right path at first. Like I said, I didn't have no vision. I had an imagination, but I wasn't using that imagination to manifest something good in my life. Like so, you all you need is a goal. All you need is a plan. Like if your 3 year goal is the military, okay, now what's your 10 year goal? What's your 5 year goal? Like you said, you want to work as a mechanic. You may, as you get older, grow. You may not want to continue to do that. Your mind may want you to do something else, something that's more creative. Like you said, you want to work for yourself. Like YouTube, perfect example, will pay you millions of dollars if you just get on camera. Like so, and it's not gonna happen overnight. But if you was to start it now, 3 years from now, you won't hear every day. Like I'm pretty sure you're gonna make at least 100,000, 200,000 off YouTube, easy. Like so, and that's with the power of your mind, like the power of your thoughts, your imagination. I see that for myself happening, so I know that will happen. Like you may not see yourself making 100,000 from YouTube, like so I can't say that's gonna happen for anybody else because it's all about what you believe for yourself. So yeah, we listened to the game of life and how to play it, and I'm gonna just like play that again. Continue playing what we finish where we left off.
There is plenty on man's pathway, but it can only be brought into manifestation through desire, faith, or the spoken word. Jesus Christ brought out clearly that man must make the first move. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. In the scriptures we read, concerning the works of my hands command ye me. Infinite intelligence, God, is ever ready to carry out man's smallest or greatest demands. Every desire uttered or expressed is a demand. We are often startled by having a wish suddenly fulfilled. For example, one Easter, having seen many beautiful rose trees in the florist's windows, I wished I were to receive one, and for an instant saw it mentally being carried in the door. Easter came, and with it a beautiful rose tree. I thanked my friend that following day, and told her it was just what I had wanted. She replied, I didn't send you a rose tree, I sent you lilies. The man had mixed the order and sent me a rose tree simply because I had started the law in action, and I had to have a rose tree. Nothing stands between man and his highest ideals and every desire of his heart but doubt and fear. When man can wish without worrying, every desire will be instantly fulfilled. I will explain more fully in a following chapter the scientific reason for this, and fear must be erased from the consciousness. It is man's only enemy. Fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of sickness, fear of loss, and a feeling of insecurity on some plane. Jesus Christ said, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? So we can see we must substitute faith for fear, for fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good. The object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and to obliterate all mental pictures of evil. This must be done by impressing the subconscious mind with a realization of good. A very brilliant man who has attained great success told me he had suddenly erased all fear from his consciousness by reading a sign which hung in a room. He saw printed in large letters this statement, why worry? It will probably never happen. These words were stamped indelibly upon his subconscious mind, and he has now a firm conviction that only good can come into his life. Therefore, only good can manifest. In the following chapter, I will deal with the different methods of impressing the subconscious mind. It is man's.
One thing about this, like what she's talking about, like back in 2018, I was trying to do everything like to like fix my mindset because I knew I had a fucked up mental. I knew I had like we all got to deal with mental health. We don't realize it, but we all deal with mental health, whether it's from trauma, from childhood, you just going through certain shit, being brainwashed by fucking this whole fucking matrix. Like, damn, I forgot what I was talking about. Fuck. Like, as soon as I started talking, I just forgot what I was talking about. But my bad.
Faithful servant, but one must be careful to give it the right orders. Man has ever a silent listener.
Oh yeah, I was saying like I was doing everything to fix my mindset. So I started learning about hypnotizing. Like, and I learned that you can hypnotize yourself to think positive. Like so, I started like doing different type of meditations where I was hypnotizing myself not to fear, like to let go of anything that didn't serve me. Like, and I would do this all day, every day for like 30 days straight. I did this. Like, so after that 30 days, it was like I became a brand new person. And it was like I forced that change upon myself by basically listening to these type of books. Like I stopped listening to rap, stopped watching TV, all for 30 days. Like, and I just dedicated my life to like positivity. And that's where the creating positive minds only came from. Like I became that positive thinking person, like off of just following not the rules, but yeah, following the rules to the game. Like knowing that life was a game, like, and if you know how to play it, you can really have whatever it is that you want. And you got everything already that you need. You don't need nothing outside you. You don't need nobody to hand you something to be rich. You can create that for yourself because we all have ideas. And ideas get you paid. Everything that's around you right now was an idea. whether it's the fucking house you live in, whether it's the seat chair you sitting in, that was somebody's idea first. So they was using the infinite intelligence which we all can use, which is God, and like they created for themselves. So good day, brother. How are you this blessed day? I'm doing pretty well, my brother. Doing pretty well. Just listening to this book, The Game of Life and How to Play it. Like just doing a little dialogue. Like, but for I literally had to brainwash myself to think positive because I'm like, Kenneth, it's no wonder you're poor. It's no wonder you broke because you don't got no type of goals. Like, how you gonna go somewhere in life you don't know where you're going? Like, so once I learned that for myself, like I started doing everything it took to like be this person I am today. Like, so I really wanted that for myself. Most people don't want to change. Most people cool with where they at in life. That wasn't the case for me. Like, especially when I got an older brother and a younger brother that's making money off YouTube, like millions of dollars at a point of time, or still making it. Like, so I'm like, I know I can do it. So I just had to break out of that old cycle, like how I brought was brought up, how I came up, like, cause that affected me in a big way. So
Inside his subconscious mind. Every thought, every word upon it and carried out in amazing detail. It is like a singer making a record on the disc of the phonographic plate. Every note and tone of the singer's voice is registered. If he coughs or hesitates, it is registered also. So let us break all the old bad records in the subconscious mind, the records of our lives which we do not wish to keep, and make new and beautiful ones. Speak these words aloud with power and conviction. I now smash and demolish by my spoken word every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life, the game completed. In the following chapters, I will show you how man can change his conditions by changing his words. Any man who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This concludes Chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Law of Prosperity. One of the greatest messages given to the race through the scripture is that God is man's supply, and that man can release, through his spoken word, all that belongs to him by divine right. He must, however, have perfect faith in his spoken word. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was just to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her God was her supply, and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time in the right way. I told her she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. The 15th came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what she should do. I replied, "It is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize. Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you have already received the $3,000. The next morning, she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said no. You are divinely protected and God is never too late. In the evening, she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, "My dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I saw to the maid, 'Don't let anyone in.' The maid, however, looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with the long white beard.' So I said, 'Call him back. I would like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's voice, and he came back. He talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he said, 'Oh, by the way, how are your finances?' I told him I needed the money, and he said, 'Why, my dear, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month.' I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow. I said, 'I'll keep on treating.' I said, Spirit is never too late. I give thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time. The next morning, her cousin called her up and said, Come to my office this morning and I will give you the money. That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement could permit. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he has prepared for. For example, a man came to me asking to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he didn't.
I'm grateful for your vibes, my brother. Stay helping people well. I need things like this because helping others is the best way we advance forward. So I like how you.
Hey, that's what this is about. Like, honestly, this was my whole plan. Like when I started this book club, was like to help people because I wish I had somebody on YouTube like that was doing something like this. Like so now, like I hope like more people start getting hopping on live, listening to their favorite books. Like I'm gonna be happy when I like it's a that's the no normal thing instead of like vlogs with pranks and like uh what goes on YouTube today. Like so, like, I wanted to create a space that I could vibe, and this is what I do all day, every day anyway. Whether I'm on camera, like I'm usually listening to an audio book, usually listening to some type of lecture or something positive. Like so, I'm like, man, the best way to help people is like to create content, and this the content that I want to create. Like, it's bringing dope people to my life. Like so, it's a win-win for everybody.
His bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. We have a wonderful illustration of this in the Bible. Man must prepare for the thing he has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, Isn't it too late? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel. She replied, You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a Superman, and I'll get an apartment. She spoke the words, Infinite Spirit, open the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand, and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, Don't buy the blankets. Perhaps after all you won't get an apartment, and you will have no use for them. She promptly replied to herself, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her, although there was over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. We have a wonderful illustration of this in the Bible relating to the 3 kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted the prophet Elisha, who gave them this astonishing message. Thus saith the Lord, Ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches. Man must prepare for the thing he asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. It is needless to say that the ditches dug by the 3 kings in the desert were filled to overflowing. Getting into the spiritual swing of things is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the army of the aliens, which must be put to flight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious, and error is exposed to be put out. This is the time when one must make his affirmations of truth repeatedly, and rejoice and give thanks that he has already received. Before ye call, I shall answer. This means that every good and perfect gift is already man's, awaiting his recognition. Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every man. He has only the land within his own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision, and often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. The children of Israel, when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. This is almost every man's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearance and rejoices while he is yet in captivity. That is, he holds to his vision and gives thanks that the end is accomplished, he has received. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest? Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes, and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest. His clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the fourth dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete in divine mind. So man must ever hold the vision of his journey's end and demand the manifestation of that which he has already received. It may be his perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. They are all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine mind, man's own superconscious mind, and must come through him, not to him. For example, a man came to me asking for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise, within a certain time, $50,000 for his business. The time limit was almost up when he came to me in despair. No one wanted to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused a loan. I replied, I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, therefore your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank, I added, and I would treat. My treatment was, you are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation. He replied, Woman, you are talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday. The bank closes at 12, and my train won't get me there until 10, and the time limit is up tomorrow. And anyway, they won't do it. It's too late. I replied, God doesn't need any time and is never too late. With him, all things are possible. I added, I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God. He replied, It all sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out it's terrible. He lived in a distant city, and I did not hear from him for a week. Then came a letter. It read, You were right, I raised the money, and I will never doubt again the truth of all that you told me. I saw him a few weeks later, and I said, What happened? You evidently had plenty of time after all. He replied, My train was late, and I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, I've come for the loan, and they gave it to me without a question. It was the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him. An infinite spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold to the vision.
What she was doing, she was speaking things into existence for people. Like, she knew her power. Like, that's why everybody was coming to her when they was in need. Like, that's the type of person I am. Every time somebody in need, they come for me for help. Like, and most of the time I just use my words. I speak life into existence. Like, I know how this world is set up. Like, so she definitely was on to like some on to something, and she was living in the 1800s. Like, they had white people had this information in the 1800s. Black people still don't got this information because they don't want to read books. Like, that's why we are so far behind, because we don't want to pick up a book. Like, only book they pick up is the Bible on Sunday. It ain't like they reading it throughout the week, like, or whatever book they read, like religion wise. Like me, like I said, I'm always reading. So
You should post when you create and keep the schedule because I can't see it during the day of Sunday nights. I wouldn't mind tuning in, especially books like
hey, the Kabbalah, like, that's a book I love that book. And I love the Bible. I love all like books. Like, anything that got some games, some information. Hey, I'm down to like read it. I mean, listen to it. But I should be like more consistent. Like, as far as like when I'm creating like a set schedule. Like, I try to come on every night at like around 8:30, but I'm on West Coast time. Like, most people on East Coast, so it'd be 11:30 when they out. Like, so as long as I stay consistent, the videos to show up, whether they're the people in the live or not. Like people gonna show up. But stay beautiful. Hey, thank you for coming through. I don't know if you about to head out or not, but yeah, I'm definitely do this every single night, like the book club at least. Then, as you can see during the daytime, I post shorts, like so that just brings balance to my channel. My channel, like, and hopefully I just continue to grow organically, like, and we gonna get monetized from that point on. Like, I ain't monetized yet, but hey, I'm getting there, and I ain't in no rush because, like I said, I know it's gonna happen. Just in a matter of divine timing.
This is what one man can do for another. Jesus Christ knew the truth of this when he said, "If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven." One gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health,
It'll
or
always
prosperity
be
and never
appreciated,
wavers
like
because he is
always.
not too close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for oneself. So a person should not hesitate to ask for help if he feels himself wavering. A keen observer of life once said, "No man can fail if some one person sees them successful." Such is the power of the vision, and many a great man owed his success to a wife, or sister, or friend who believed in him and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. This ends chapter 2.
As you can see, all you need is one person to believe in you. Like me, that one person is myself. I believe in myself. I mean, and I have my wife. Like, so my wife, of course, she believes in me. But overall, like, no matter what, I've trained myself to think, like, it doesn't matter what nobody else think. Like, I don't care what nobody else opinion of me. Like, because I know where I'm headed. I know I'm focused. Like, that's why I'm on YouTube every day. Because, like, I've made this my job to get on here every day. Like, do things like this. So this is a version of me. Like I wasn't always like this. Like, and definitely wasn't always like this. I didn't get this focus on YouTube till recently. Like we talking 2.5 months. Like where like before I've been on YouTube since 2017, but I was never consistent. Like I was the most I was consistent was like in my first year. I would probably post once a every other day I post a video, but I wasn't doing it for months consecutively. Probably did it for like a couple weeks and then I stopped posting. But this is the first time where 2.5 months straight I've posted on YouTube. Like so, imagine 12 months in, a year. I mean, I just said 12 months. That is a year. But 3 years in, where I'm still posting on YouTube every single day because I'm already on YouTube every day. It's nothing for me to turn on my phone and get on live. Like listen to a book. Like there's so many books out there. Like we could just be listening, getting game from it. Like so. This is definitely one of my favorite books, The Game of Life and How to Play It. It was written, like I said, 1925. Like they just been hiding stuff in these books because they know niggas don't read. And hey, I ain't about to force nothing on nobody. That's why I just created my space so I can do me. And if people want to join, they can join. Like it's all fun and games.
Chapter 3. The Power of the Word. A person knowing the power of the word becomes very careful of his conversation.
Bro.
He has only to watch the reaction of his word to know that they do not return void. Through his spoken word, man is continually making laws for himself. I know a man who said, "I always miss a car. It invariably pulls out just as I arrive." His daughter said, "I always catch a car. It's sure to come just as I get there." This occurred for years. Each has made a separate law for himself, one of failure, one of success. This is the psychology of superstitions. The horseshoe or rabbit's foot contains no power, but man's spoken word and belief that it will bring good luck creates expectancy in the subconscious mind and attracts a lucky situation. I find, however, this will not work when man has advanced spiritually and knows a higher law. One cannot turn back and must put away graven images. For example, 2 men in my class had had great success in business for several months, when suddenly everything went to smash. We tried to analyze the situation, and I found, instead of making their affirmations and looking to God for success and prosperity, they had each brought a lucky monkey. I said, "Oh, I see, you have been putting trust in the lucky monkeys instead of God. Put away the lucky monkeys and call on the law of forgiveness, for man has power to forgive or neutralize his mistakes." They decided to throw the lucky monkeys down a coal hole, and all went well again. This does not mean, however, that one should throw away every lucky ornament or horseshoe about the house. But he must recognize that the power back of it is the one and only power, God, and that the object simply gives him a feeling of expectancy. I was with a friend one day who was in deep despair. In crossing the street, she picked up a horseshoe. Immediately, she filled with joy and hope. She said God had sent her the horseshoe in order to keep up her courage. It was indeed at that moment about the only thing that could have registered in her consciousness. Her hope became faith, and she ultimately made a wonderful demonstration. I wish to make the point clear that the men previously mentioned were depending on the monkeys alone, while this woman recognized the power back of the horseshoe. I know in my own case, it took a long while to get out of a belief that a certain thing brought disappointment. If the thing happened, disappointment invariably followed. I found the only way I could make a change in the subconscious was by asserting, there are not two powers, there is only one power, God. Therefore, there are not disappointments, and this thing means a happy surprise. I noticed a change at once, and happy surprises commenced coming my way. I have a friend who said nothing would induce her to walk under a ladder.
If you haven't
I
liked the
said, if you
video
are
already,
afraid,
can you
you are
please give
giving
it a
in
thumbs
to a
up? I
belief in two
definitely appreciate
powers,
it.
good and evil, instead of one. As God is absolute, there can be no opposing power, unless man makes the false of evil for himself. To show that you believe in only one power, God, and that there is no power or reality in evil, walk under the ladder you see. Soon after, she went to her bank. She wished to open her box in the safe deposit vault, and there stood a ladder on her pathway. It was impossible to reach the box without passing under the ladder.
I want to say something like about superstitions. I remember when I was a kid, right? You know the term "never say never." Well, it was like I don't know what had happened, but I had learned that term "never say never" because if you say never, things that happen. Like so, when I learned that, I just started saying nothing was gonna happen. Like it would be the I would watching 106 in Park. Perfect example. I'm watching 106 in Park. This is when AJ and Free is the host. So while I'm watching this video, and like I said, I'm learning about never. I said AJ ain't gonna never mess up while he's talking because he never they'll always go to script and they'll never make no mistake. So this one day I say AJ ain't gonna never mess up his script, and he ends up messing up the script as soon as I said that. So every day, like I was basically saying, ain't nothing never gonna happen, and all these things was happening, and then I kind of grew out of that. Like it was like that law didn't work for me because that was some kid. Like I was doing magic as a kid, basically. Like I was noticing things as a kid. Like so, superstitions aren't real. It's the power of your mind. Like some people they won't walk under a ladder. They won't split a pole. Like it's that deep. Like and they don't understand. It's just all the power of your beliefs.
She quailed with fear and turned back. She could not face the lion on her pathway. However, when she reached the street, my words rang in her ears, and she decided to return and walk under it. It was a big moment in her life, for ladders had held her in bondage for years. She retraced her steps to the vault, and the ladder was no longer there. This so often happens. If one is willing to do a thing he is afraid to do, he does not have to. It is the law of non-resistance, which is so little understood. Someone has said that courage contains genius and magic. Face a situation fearlessly, and there is no situation to face. It falls away of its own weight. The explanation is that fear attracted the ladder on the woman's pathway, and fearlessness removed it. Thus, the invisible forces are ever working for man who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. Owing to the vibratory power of words, whatever man voices, he begins to attract. People who continually speak of disease invariably attract it.
Or say I'm
After man
poor
knows
and I'm broke. People always talking about I'm poor, I'm broke, I ain't got this, I ain't got that. Duh, motherfucker, because you keep speaking that shit. Stop speak. Like, you can't joke with the universe. You can't joke with your subconscious mind. So if you steady calling your kid stupid, you steady calling yourself ugly, fat, what you think you gonna manifest in your life? Like, and I'm not talking about nobody in here, but like this is what the world be like. 90% of the world does. Like, they speak negativity in their own life and then wonder why their life is so miserable and so fucked up. Like, it's because you speaking it on yourself. Ain't nobody's doing that. Like, it's you. Like, stop it.
truth, he cannot be too careful of his words. For example, I have a friend who often says on the phone, "Do come to see me and have an old-fashioned chat." This old-fashioned chat means an hour of about 500 to 1,000 destructive words, the principal topics being loss, lack, failure, and sickness.
Stay away
I
from those
reply, "No
people.
thank you. I've had enough old-fashioned chats in my life. They are too expensive, but I will be glad to have a new-fashioned chat and talk about what we want, not what we don't want." There is an old saying that man only dares use his words for three purposes: to heal, bless, or prosper. What man says of others will be said of him, and what he wishes for another, he is wishing for himself. Curses, like chickens, come home to roost. If a man wishes someone bad luck, he is sure to attract bad luck himself. If he wishes to aid someone in success, he is wishing and aiding himself to success. The body may be renewed and transformed through the spoken word and clear vision, and disease be completely wiped out of the consciousness. The metaphysician knows.
Like, so, like, I'm really, like, doing spiritual work. Like, as many people there is in alive, like, I'm, like, really trying to spiritually help y'all, like, and help myself. Like, because the only way you can get rich is if you enrich others. So my whole goal is not feed nobody bullshit, not feed nobody poison, so to say. Like, but like, give y'all like the game, like give y'all the secrets to success. Most people already know it, but then again, most people don't. Some people need a reminder. Sometimes I had. That's why I have to keep rereading these books because I need reminders. Sometimes, like your mind is always working against you. That's why you have to have it under control because it's always like trying to stop you. Like your own mind would try to stop you because other people are trying to program you. Whether it's music you listening to, whether it's the movies you're watching, TV shows, books you read, and like that affects your mind. That programs you to think a certain way. Like the books I listen to, it's programmed me to think this way. Like, so we're all a product of what we take in, what we read, listen to, eat, like all of that. So I ain't, like I said, I'm not trying to put out bullshit. Like if I'm gonna put out some content, like it's gonna be pure organic and it's gonna be helpful. Like shit.
That all disease has a mental correspondence, and in order to heal the body, one must first heal the soul. The soul is the subconscious mind, and it must be saved from wrong thinking. In the 23rd Psalm, we read, "He restoreth my soul." This means that the subconscious mind or soul must be restored with the right ideas, and the mystical marriage is the marriage of the soul and the spirit, or the subconscious and superconscious mind. They must be one. When the subconscious is flooded with the perfect ideas of the superconscious, God and man are one. I and the Father are one. That is, he is one with the realm of perfect ideas. He is the man made in God's likeness and image, imagination. and is given power and dominion over all created things, his mind, body, and affairs. It is safe to say that all sickness and unhappiness comes from the violation of the law of love. A new commandment I give unto you: love one another. And in the game of life, love or goodwill takes every trick. For example, a woman I know had for years an appearance of a terrible skin disease. The doctors told her it was incurable, and she was in despair. She was on the stage, and she feared she would soon have to give up her profession, and she had no other means of support. She, however, procured a good engagement, and on the opening night made a great hit. She received flattering notices from the critics and was joyful and elated. The next day she received a notice of dismissal. A man in the cast had been jealous of her success and had caused her to be sent away. She felt hatred and resentment taking complete possession of her, and she cried out, "Oh God, don't let me hate that man." That night she worked for hours in the silence. She said, "I soon came into a very deep silence. I seemed to be at peace with myself, with the man, and with the whole world. I continued this for the 2 following nights, and on the third day I found I was healed completely of the skin disease. In asking for love or goodwill, she had fulfilled the law, for love is a fulfilling of the law. And the disease, which came from subconscious resentment, was wiped out. Continual criticism produces rheumatism, as critical, inharmonious thoughts cause unnatural deposits in the blood which settle in the joints. False growths are caused by jealousy, hatred, unforgiveness, fear, etc. Every disease is caused by a mind not at ease. I said once in my class, there is no use asking anyone what's the matter with you. We might just as well say, who's the matter with you? Unforgiveness is the most prolific cause of disease. It will harden arteries or liver and affect the eyesight. In its train are endless ills. I called on a woman one day who said she was ill from having eaten a poisoned oyster. I replied, "Oh no, the oyster was harmless. You poisoned the oyster.
Damn.
What's the matter with you?" She answered, "Oh, about 19 people." She had quarreled with 19 people and had become so inharmonious that she attracted the wrong oyster. Any inharmony on the external indicates there is mental inharmony. As the within, so the without. Man's only enemies are within himself, and a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Personality is one of the last enemies to be overcome, as this planet is taking its initiation in love. It was Christ's message, peace on earth, goodwill towards man. The enlightened man therefore endeavors to perfect himself upon his neighbor. His work is with himself, to send out goodwill and blessings to every man. And the marvelous thing is that if one blesses a man, he has no power to harm him. For example, a man came to me asking to treat for success in business. He was selling machinery, and a rival appeared on the scene with what he proclaimed was a better machine, and my friend feared defeat. I said, first of all, we must wipe out all fear and know that God protects your interest, and that the divine idea must come out of the situation. That is, the right machine will be sold by the right man to the right man. And I added, don't hold one critical thought towards that man. Bless him all day, and be willing not to sell your machine if it isn't the divine idea. So he went to the meeting, fearless and non-resistant, and blessing the other man. He said the outcome was very remarkable. The other man's machine refused to work, and he sold his without the slightest difficulty. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which spitefully use you and persecute you. Goodwill produces a great aura of...
That's still like a hard part for me, like that part, like blessing your enemy. Like, I mean, I sometimes find it easy to like pray for my enemies, like, and like think positive about them. But most of the times it's like, nah, you don't get no, you can't. I'm not gonna give you no positive energy. You just, I'd rather not think about you. I'd rather like not pay attention to you. But like understanding like the game of life and how to play it, like You should always think positive no matter what's the situation. Like even if you know that person is your enemy, or you not let's say your enemy, but if you know, like family, you know a person ain't right. You know every time you get on the phone with them, like it's some negative shit. So you automatically think negative about this person. Like if you start to think positive, then things will work out in your favor. Like me, I don't. I'd rather not deal with nobody. I'd rather just be in my office kicking it with myself than deal with somebody negative. Like I said, I'd rather waste. I mean, not waste, but use my focus on myself, or my company, my kids. But I ain't trying to use it on somebody I dislike. Not to say I want them to fail, but like shit, we all reap what we sow. Like so, now I don't want to mess with nobody's karma. Like I know, like I said, I know my words is powerful. I know I speak things into existence. So, motherfucker ain't speaking good in my life. I ain't about to speak good in their life either. So shit, that works out both ways. But like I said, I need to change that. That's something I do need to work on. Like speaking positive into my enemy's life. Like, cause at the end of the day, it's not like they're really my enemy. I don't have no enemies. Like, the fuck? Why would I have any? But there are people that wants me to fail. There are people that are ones that don't want to see me successful. Like, so I understand that. And through my journey, like, it's been the closest people towards me, like family, like that's been trying to stop me. Like, so I cut a lot of people off. I cut friends, family, like jobs off. Like I'll cut you off quick if I feel like some negative energy coming from you. If I feel like you trying to stop me, like so. But this book is saying pray for your enemies, think positive. Like it is something that I have tried, I have done, but overall, like it's not always like that. Like so, like I said, it's something I'm working on. Like I'm willing to admit that, but that goes back to like reading books more than once. Like I forgot to do that. Like so, read listening to this. Like I'm being reminded, hey, it is some things you can change. Like you're not Mr. Perfect. I am Mr. Perfect, but I ain't Mr. Perfect. But yeah,
Protection about the one who sends it, and no weapon that is formed against him shall prosper. In other words, love and goodwill destroy the enemies with oneself, and therefore one has no enemies on the external. There is peace on earth for him who sends goodwill to man. This ends chapter 3. Chapter 4. The Law of Non-Resistance. Nothing on earth can resist an absolutely non-resistant person. The Chinese say that water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly non-resistant. It can wear away a rock and sweep all before
how
it.
many water signs we
Jesus
got in the
Christ
chat?
said, "Resist not evil,"
I'm a
for
Pisces,
he
so
knew in reality there was no evil, therefore nothing to resist. Evil has come of man's vain imagination, or belief in two powers, good and evil. There is an old legend that Adam and Eve ate of Maya, the tree of illusion, and saw two powers instead of one power, God. Therefore, evil is a false law man has made for himself, through the psychoma or soul sleep. Soul sleep means that man's soul has been hypnotized by the race belief of sin, sickness, and
I was talking about when I hypnotized myself early to think positive because we're all like basically hypnotized in a negative way. Like so, yeah. Like I didn't even I forgot this book talked about hypnotizing.
etc., which is carnal or mortal thought, and his affairs have outpictured his illusions. We have
Guess
heard
I'm
in
the only
previous
water
chapters
sign
that
tonight.
man's soul
Shit,
is
what's
his
y'all
subconscious
zodiac sign
mind,
then if y'all ain't no
and
water
whatever he
sign?
feels deeply, good or bad, is outpictured by the faithful servant. His
I be
body and
forgetting
affairs
people
show
be
forth
like
what he
watching
has
the
been
live on
picturing.
TV and
The
stuff
sick
like
man has
things like
pictured
they can't
sickness,
comment
the
like
poor
so I'll
man
be talking
poverty,
to myself a
the
lot,
rich
but
man wealth. People often say,
if you can
"Why
give
does a
this
little
video a
child
thumbs up,
attract
like I
illness
really
when it is too
appreciate it. If you
young
can
even to
comment,
know what it
like that'll be
means?"
dope too.
I answer that children are sensitive and receptive to the thoughts of others around them, and often outpicture the fears of their parents. I heard a metaphysician once say, If you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. Mothers often unconsciously attract illness and disaster to their children by continually holding them in thoughts of fear and watching for symptoms. For example, a friend asked a woman if her little girl had had the measles. She replied promptly, "Not yet." This implied that she was expecting the illness and therefore preparing the way for what she did not want for herself and child. However, the man who is centered and established in right thinking, the man who sends out only goodwill to his fellow man, and who is without fear, cannot be touched or influenced by the negative thoughts of others. In fact, he could only receive only good thoughts, as he himself sends forth only good thoughts. Resistance is hell, for it places man in a state of torment. A metaphysician once gave me a wonderful recipe for taking every trick in the game of life. It is the acme of non-resistance. He gave it in this way. At one time in my life, I baptized children, and of course they had many names. Now I no longer baptize children, but I baptize events. But I give every event the same name. If I have a failure, I baptize it success, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. In this, we see the great law of transmutation, founded on non-resistance. Through his spoken word, every failure was transmuted into success. For example, a woman who required money and who knew the spiritual law of opulence was thrown continually in a business way with a man who made her feel very poor. He talked lack and limitation, and she commenced to catch his poverty thoughts.
Oh, see, stay away from people who think negative all the time. Like, stay away from people who low key poor. Like, not saying they ain't got no money in the bank account, but stay away from people who are just poor minded. Like, cause they thoughts, you'll start to think they thoughts. Like, hanging around nine broke people, you'll probably be the 10. Hang around nine rich people, so forth and so forth. So I understood that. That's why I separated myself from basically the world, because I'm like, I know y'all don't have control of y'all mind, y'all control of y'all thoughts. So I'm not about to let y'all negative thinking affect me. Like, so it didn't happen overnight, changing and becoming the type of positive thinking person. But I eventually, like, I worked to get here. And like, these books are really, like, they telling the truth. It ain't no line in these words. Like, I may not use the Bible references as much as these books do, but like, I do understand like the power of like just was in that book, like, and just not just that book, but books period. Like, we need to be reading books every day, to not, to our children, like to ourselves, like listening to audio books. You don't have to fucking read a book. You can listen to one. That's what we doing now. What? Your pencil's not in here. But yeah, that's my daughter. Distraction. Let me get back to this book.
So she disliked him and blamed him for her failure. She knew in order to demonstrate her supply, she must first feel that she has received a feeling of opulence. A feeling of opulence must precede its manifestation. It dawned on her one day that she was resisting the situation and seeing two powers instead of one. So she blessed the man and baptized the situation success. She affirmed, "As there is only one power, God, this man is here for my good and my prosperity," just what he did not seem to be there for. Soon after that, she met, through this man, a woman who gave her for a service rendered several $1,000s, and the man moved to a distant city and faded harmoniously from her life. Make the statement, "Every man is a golden link in the chain of my good," for all men are God in manifestation, awaiting the opportunity given by man himself to serve the divine plan of his life. Bless your enemy, and you rob him of his ammunition. His arrows will be transmuted into blessings. This law is true of nations as well as individuals. Bless a nation, send love and goodwill to every inhabitant, and it is robbed of its power to harm. Man can only get the right idea of non-resistance through spiritual understanding. My students have often said,
But showing love will get you killed as well. Like so, like I understand what she's saying when she said like love your enemies, like send positive like thoughts towards them. Like, but at the same time, like how many times have we seen somebody killed, like, or like genuinely like showing love? Like everybody ain't got the best intentions. So I mean, like I understand what she's saying, but at the same time, it's like still working on it. Like, but it's all a mind thing. It's all mental. Like, so what I believe to be true will come true. Like, if I believe a nigga still gonna be a snake, even if I'm showing love, like that's gonna happen. But if I just keep it all pure, like, that's, then maybe something else can. Like, I mean, my life the way it's working out is going pretty well for myself. Like, so exactly, you can't be naive. Like, so, like, gotta be a realist. Some people just evil and don't change or don't change. Exactly. So I learned, like I said, I stay away from those type of people. Like it ain't no point in me thinking positive about you. Ain't no point in me trying to like change you or nothing. Like fuck that shit. Just stay away from me. I ain't gonna think nothing about you. But if thoughts start popping up in my head about you, like I'm pretty sure they ain't gonna be nothing positive. Like so, yeah. I mean, what she's saying is not wrong. But at the same time, she not dealing with niggas. This like I said, this book was written in 1925. So like the people she is referring to, like they not trying to kill you. They not trying to stop you, or like they not trying to like they had different intentions back then. Like and she white too. Like so, it's kind of different.
I don't want to be a doormat. I reply, when you use non-resistance with wisdom, no one will ever be able to walk over you. Another example. One day, I was impatiently.
See, she talking about getting walked over. Like I'm talking about shit getting murdered. Like so, it's a different conversation. So I definitely get what she's saying, but at the same time, I was just looking at it from a different perspective. She don't know about the streets exactly like fucking Florence Scoville. She does not know about today. Like, but her words do ring true. Like, just for certain situation. Like, it's like she's still not lying though. But she don't know. She don't know nothing about what's going on today. Like, but her spirit do. Like, her spirit can see what's
An
going on.
important telephone call. I resisted every call that came in and made no outgoing calls myself, reasoning that it might interfere with the one I was awaiting. Instead of saying, divine ideas never conflict, the call will come at the right time, leaving it to infinite intelligence to arrange, I commenced to manage things myself. I made the battle mine, not God's, and remained tense and anxious. The bell did not ring for an hour, and I glanced at the phone and found the receiver had been off that length of time, and the phone was disconnected.
So
My
could have
anxiety,
missed the call.
fear, and belief in interference had brought on a total eclipse of the telephone. Realizing what I had done, I commenced blessing the situation at once. I baptized it success and affirmed, I cannot lose any call that belongs to me by divine right. I am under grace and not under law. A friend rushed out to the nearest telephone to notify the company to reconnect. She entered a crowded grocery, but the proprietor left his customers and attended to the call himself. My phone was connected at once, and 2 minutes later, I received a very important call. And about an hour afterward, the one I had been awaiting. Once ships come in over a calm sea, so long as man resists a situation, he will have it with him. If he runs away from it, it will run after him. For example, I repeated this to a woman one day, and she replied, how true that is. I was unhappy at home. I disliked my mother, who was critical and domineering, so I ran away and was married. But I married my mother, for my husband was exactly like my mother, and I had the same situation to face again. Agree with thine adversary quickly. This means agree that the adverse situation is good, be undisturbed by it, and it falls away of its own weight. None of these things move me is a wonderful affirmation. The inharmonious situation comes from some inharmony within man himself. When there is in him no emotional response to an inharmonious situation, it fades away forever from his pathway. So we see man's work is ever with himself. People have said to me, "Give treatments to change my husband or my brother." I reply, no, I will give treatments to change you. When you change, your husband and your brother will change. One of my students was in the habit of lying. I told her it was a failure method, and if she lied, she would be lied to too. She replied, "I don't care. I can't possibly get along without lying." One day she was speaking on the phone to a man with whom she was very much in love. She turned to me and said, "I don't trust him. I know he's lying to me." I replied,
Duh, bitch, cause
"Well,
you
you lie
lying.
yourself, so someone has to lie to you, and you'll be sure it will be just the person you want the truth from." Sometime after that, I saw her, and she said, "I'm cured of lying." I questioned, "What cured you?" She replied, "I have been living with a woman who lied worse than I did. One is often cursed of his faults by seeing them in others. Life is a
That's
mirror,
called
and we
mirroring.
find only ourselves reflected in our associates. Living in the past is a failure method and a violation of spiritual law. Jesus Christ said, "Behold, now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation."
I ain't got
Lot's
my
wife
king
looked back
palm
and was turned into a pillar of
today.
salt.
Gotta fucking smoke these
The robbers
White
of time
Owls.
are the past and the future. Man should bless the past and forget it if
What
it
y'all
keeps
be
him in
smoking on?
bondage, and bless the
I
future
know most
knowing
people
it
like
has in
to do
store for
fucking
him endless
dances
joys,
tonight. What's
but
up?
to live
What's up?
fully in the
Hey,
now.
you one of the most
For
active
example,
people on my YouTube.
A woman
Shout
came
out
to me
you.
complaining
Dances
that she had
tonight.
no money with which to buy Christmas gifts. She said, "Last year was so different. I had plenty of money and gave lovely presents, and this year I have scarcely a cent." I replied, "You will never demonstrate money while you are pathetic and live in the past. Live fully in the now and get ready to give Christmas presents.
Praise
Dig
Jesus.
your ditches and the money will come." She exclaimed, "I know what to do. I will buy some tinsel twine, Christmas seals, and wrapping paper." I replied, "Do that, and the presents will come and stick themselves to the Christmas seals." This too was showing financial fearlessness and faith in God, as the reasoning mind said, "Keep every cent you have, as you are not sure you will get any more." She bought the seals, paper, and twine, and a few days before Christmas received a gift of several $100s. Buying the seals and twine had impressed the subconscious with expectancy and opened the way for the manifestation of the money. She purchased all the presents in plenty of time. Man must live suspended in the moment. Look well, therefore, to this day. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salvation of the dawn. He must be spiritually alert, ever waiting his leads, taking advantage of every opportunity. One day, I said continually, silently, "Infinite Spirit, don't let me miss a trick." And something very important was told to me that evening. It is most necessary to begin the day with the right words. Make an affirmation immediately upon waking. For example, "Thy will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease." Make this a habit, and one will see wonders and miracles come into his life. One morning I picked up a book and read, "Look with wonder at that which is before you." It seemed to be my message for the day, so I repeated again and again, "Look with wonder at that which is before you." At about noon, a large sum of money was given me, which I had been desiring for a certain purpose. In the following chapter, I will give affirmations that I have found most effective. However, one should never use an affirmation unless it is absolutely satisfying and convincing to his own consciousness. And often, an affirmation is changed to suit different people. For example, the following has brought success to many. "I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay." I gave the first two lines to one of my students, and she added the last two. It made a most wonderful statement, as there should always be perfect payment for perfect service, and a rhyme sinks easily
See,
into
I'm
the
doing
subconscious.
perfect service, so
She went about singing it
this is
aloud,
my work.
and soon did receive wonderful work in a wonderful way, and gave wonderful service for wonderful pay. Another student, a businessman, took it and changed the word work
Yeah, I'm
to
the
business.
businessman.
He repeated, I have a wonderful business in a wonderful way, and I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. That afternoon, he made a $41,000 deal, though there had been no activity in his affairs for months. Every affirmation must be carefully worded and completely cover the ground. For example, I know a woman who is in great need and made a demand for work. She received a great deal of work, but was never paid anything. She now knows to add wonderful service for wonderful pay. It is man's divine right to have plenty,
You
more than
always
enough.
get what you ask for.
His barns should be
Always.
full, and his cup should flow over. This is God's idea for man. And when man breaks down the barriers of lack in his own consciousness, the golden age will be his, and every righteous desire of his heart fulfilled. This ends chapter 4. Chapter 5. The Law of Karma and the Law of Forgiveness. Man receives only that which he gives. The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Man's thoughts, deeds, and words return to him sooner or later with astounding accuracy. This is the law of karma, which is Sanskrit for comeback. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For example, a friend told me this story of herself, illustrating the law. She said, I make all my karma on my aunt. Whatever I say to her, someone says to me. I'm often irritable at home, and one day said to my aunt, who was talking to me during dinner, no more talk. I wish to eat in peace. The following day, I was lunching with a woman with whom I wished to make a great impression. I was talking animatedly when she said, no more talk. I wish to eat in peace. My friend is high in consciousness, so her karma returns much.
What you do unto others will be done to you. That shit rings true to for me, and I'm pretty sure everybody else. But if it don't resonate with you, I'm pretty sure it will.
more quickly than to one on the mental plane. The more man knows, the more he is responsible for, and a person with a knowledge of spiritual law, which he does not practice, suffers greatly in consequence. The fear of the Lord, law, is the beginning of wisdom. If we read the word law, it will make many passages in the Bible much clearer. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. Law. It is the law which takes vengeance, not God. God sees man perfect, created in his own image, imagination, and given power and dominion. This is the perfect idea of man, registered in divine mind, awaiting man's recognition. For man can only be what he sees himself to be, and only attain
Back
what
in
he sees
college
himself
ago.
attaining. Nothing ever happens without an onlooker, is an ancient saying. Man's
I just graduated from college, man. I mean, I wasn't wearing polos and shit, but I always been like a polo. Always been a polo dude. Shit just comfortable. Hold on, y'all. I hear my kids in the background, and they know they're not supposed to even be talking. Like me hearing them right now, like they know they in trouble. Well, I should have left the book playing when I was gone. My bad.
First, his failure or success, his joy or sorrow, before it swings into visibility from the scene set in his own imagination. We have observed this in the mother picturing disease for her child, or a woman seeing success for her husband. Obedience precedes authority, and the law obeys man when he obeys the law. The law of electricity must be obeyed before it becomes man's servant. When handled ignorantly, it becomes man's deadly foe. So with the laws of mind. For example, a woman with a strong personal will wished she owned a house which belonged to an acquaintance, and she often made mental pictures of herself living in the house. In the course of time, the man died and she moved into the house. Several years
She
afterwards,
killed
coming
that
into the
nigga.
knowledge of spiritual law, she said to me, "Do you think I had anything to do with that man's death?" I replied, "Yes, your desire was so strong, everything made way for it. But you paid your karmic debt. Your husband, who you loved devotedly, died soon after, and the house was a white elephant on your hands for years." The original owner, however, could not have been affected by her thoughts had he been positive in the truth, nor her husband, but they were both under karmic law. The woman should have said, feeling the great desire for the house, "Infinite intelligence."
Is this house like my dream home, right? I had a dream about it before I even seen it in person. The house got a bowling alley, like gated community, like 13,000 square foot house, 13 feet doors. Like, so when I first dreamed of this home, like I just like was I learned about the law of attraction, so like I was trying to manifest this shit. And then I seen it on YouTube. So every day, it's in Las Vegas. Every day I would just watch this house, like manifest, like meditate in this house. Like I would just visualize myself in this house, like every single day. And then the house just kept going on sale. So I'm like, I wonder is my spirit like showing up to this house, like hunting people from like staying here because they just keep going back on sale, and it's like a multi-million-dollar house. So the last time it sold, like I ended up figuring out who bought the house, and then I ended up following him on Instagram, some stalker shit. But like he taking pictures, like more detailed, like inside the house, like more than what I was able to see on YouTube. Like so, at first I was kind of pissed, like he had got the house, and like I was trying to manifest like him get like selling the house. But I'm like at the same time, I like knowing this book, like I don't want to like end up like killing somebody, like just how powerful my mind is, like just trying to get this house. So I'm like, universe, like give me the house that's for me. Like I know what I want, like, but I don't want to take it from like somebody else. Like so, give me what's for me. Like in the same way. Like so, I'm just waiting on my multi-million-dollar house to show up. Like my multi-billions to be not just in my bank account, but in my stock, crypto, whatever I own, art, real estate. Like that's what I'm just manifesting for myself. Like so, I'm providing the service, doing this, getting on live, like playing these books because this is a service. This is a job. Like if you listening, and you taking notes, and you growing from this, like hey, that's the work I'm putting in. That's what I was. That's why I started the book club. That's why we listening to this book. Like so, I can put other people on to game. Like because this would change my life.
Give me the right house, equally as charming as this, the house which is mine by divine right. The divine selection would have given perfect satisfaction and brought good to all. The divine pattern is the only safe pattern to work by. Desire is a tremendous force and must be directed in the right channels, or chaos ensues. In demonstrating, the most important step is the first step, to ask aright. Man should always demand only that which is his by divine right. To go back to the illustration, had the woman taken this attitude, "If this house I desire is mine, I cannot lose it. If it is not, give me its equivalent," the man might have decided to move out harmoniously had it been the divine selection for her, or another house would have been substituted. Anything forced into manifestation through personal will is always ill got, and has ever bad success. Man is admonished, my will be done, not thine. And the curious thing is, man always gets just what he desires when he does relinquish personal will, thereby enabling infinite intelligence to work through him. For example, a woman came to me in great distress. Her daughter had determined to take a very hazardous trip, and the mother was filled with fear. She said she had used every argument, had pointed out the dangers to be encountered, and forbidden her to go. But the daughter became more and more rebellious and determined. I said to the mother, "You are forcing your personal will upon your daughter, which you have no right to do, and your fear of the trip is only attracting it, for man attracts what he fears." I added, "Let go and take your mental hands off. Put it in God's hands and use this statement. I put this situation in the hands of infinite love and wisdom. If this trip is the divine plan, I bless it and no longer resist. But if it is not divinely planned, I give thanks that it is
Two
now
always
dissolved and
wins.
dissipated."
Can be
A day or two after that, her daughter said to her, "Mother, I have given up the trip," and the situation returned to its native nothingness.
look like it's some
It is
trolls that's
learning
showing
to
up.
stand still, which seems so difficult for man. I have dealt more fully with this law in the chapter on non-resistance. I will give another example of sowing and reaping, which came in the most curious way. A woman came to me saying she had received a counterfeit $20 bill given to her at the bank. She was much disturbed, for, she said, the people at the bank will never acknowledge their mistake. I replied, "Let us analyze the situation and find out why you attracted it." She thought a few moments and exclaimed, "I know it. I sent a friend a lot of stage money just for a joke. So the law had sent..."
Instead of me Googling IP2, what is IP2? Like, cause you like interrupting. Nah, you trying to get my shit hacked. I'm good. You look like a hacker. You can't just tell me what it is. I ain't about to check that shit out. It's a network of streamers. I'll check it out later. I'm a streamer on it. Is you getting paid from it? Cause the way you promoting this, you ever heard of Ice Poseidon? No, I heard of Poseidon, the Greek god of the ocean. I don't think I heard of it stems from that word, that world. Hmm. It's like a new streaming app like Twitch or something. I don't know what that. Anybody else know what IP2 is? Oh, they put me on. Oh, like it was some type of invite you talking about. That's this my first time of hearing of that. Like I'm usually like up on like new stuff. Like no, I'm gonna have to check you out first before I go like go start researching. IP2. Well, no, just YouTube streamers promoted. Um, chat. I'm about to see what it is. Like shit. Fuck it. Fuck it. So, sound like some dark web shit. Meme trolling community. Okay, now that shit popping up. It's like porch, you know.
Yeah, this is my first time like being on this. Trust me, I'm Canadian. I mean, like, how? What do it like? Is what do I need to do? Like, I see there's people who have YouTube channels like that's on here. Is these the people that's live right now? Yeah, they don't seem to be that known though. I wonder why it's not showing me live though. Like, if it's showing the people that's currently live, I should be on here. I mean, if this gonna help me grow my live shit, I'm down for it. But, like, as far as you, is this like a? I don't know. I don't know how to use this now. Like this, like, um, I don't know what the fuck to do with this. Click on one of these people, see what pop up. Dude. If y'all hear some weird shit, this is somebody else. Okay. The fuck? Live on patrol. Oh, this the police. What the fuck? Oh, so you must be live now. Like, you trying to steal people from my live. Oh, that's what you was probably doing. You came in trying to steal people from my live. I'm Mr. Bird Tickler, aka. Hey, they hiding your message, and that's your name. Like, shit. Hey, you need to go live every day. But I thought you came in here trolling or something. What the fuck is you talking about? IP2. But now I see what you talking about. Hey, this live been kind of deep tonight. Now I didn't check that out. Now I'm about to go back to this book. I guess you can keep commenting, like, but I'm gonna just somebody want to. I'm pretty sure somebody in the live that came to listen to the book, they ain't coming to see me like chat about IP2. So
Or some stage money, or doesn't know anything about jokes. I said, now we will call on the law of forgiveness and neutralize the situation. So I said, Infinite Spirit, we call on the law of forgiveness and give thanks that she is under grace and not under law and cannot lose his $20, which is hers by divine right.
Tevin, what's up?
Now I said, go back to the bed and tell them fearlessly that it was given to you there by mistake. She obeyed, and to her surprise, they apologized and gave her another bill, treating her most.
Hi, I said an old friend. Hi, I'm a positive mind. Hey, shout out to all the positive minds out there. If you a positive mind, hey, then I salute you because this world is full of the negative individuals. Shout out to my boy Tevin popping up in the live tonight. We go back. What, high school?
Courteously. So knowledge of the law gives man power to rub out his mistakes. Man cannot force the external to be what he is not. If he desires riches, he must be rich first in consciousness. For example,
Make sure
a
y'all
woman
give
came to
this
me
live a
asking
thumbs
treatment
up.
for
I
prosperity.
really
She
appreciate
did
that.
not take much interest in her household affairs, and her home was in great disorder. I said to her, if you wish to be rich, you must be orderly. All men with great wealth are orderly. In order is heaven's first law. I added, you will never become rich with a burnt match and a pincushion. She had a good sense of humor and commenced immediately putting her house in order. She arranged furniture, straightened out bureau drawers, cleaned rugs, and soon made a big financial demonstration, a gift from a relative. The woman herself became made over and keeps herself keyed up financially by being ever watchful of the external and expecting prosperity, knowing God is her supply. Many people are in ignorance of the fact that gifts and things are investments, and that hoarding and saving invariably leads to loss. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. For example, I knew a man who wanted to buy a fur-lined overcoat. He and his wife went to various shops, but there was none he wanted. He said they were all too cheap-looking. At last he was shown one. The salesman said was valued at $1,000, but which the manager would sell him for $500, as it was late in the season. His financial possessions amounted to about $700. The reasoning mind would have said, you can't afford to spend nearly all you have on a coat, but he was very intuitive and never reasoned. He turned to his wife and said, if I get this coat, I'll make a ton of money. So his wife consented, weakly. About a month later, he received a $10,000 commission. The coat made him feel so rich, it linked him with success and prosperity. Without the coat, he would not have received the commission. It was an investment, paying large dividends. If man ignores these leadings to spend or to give, the same amount of money will go in an uninteresting or unhappy way. For example, a woman told me on Thanksgiving Day she informed her family that they could.
It's funny she said that because this past December, I was like, for a week straight, I'm like, man, I want to buy this Rolex. Like just going back and forth on cause I always wanted a plain Jane like presidential Rolex, and I finally had the I finally had the money to go buy that watch. So for a week straight, I'm just contemplating, just meditating on should I go buy this, cause knowing even though I'm not a materialistic person, I understand if I had got that watch, it'd have just made me work 10 times harder. So I end up not getting a watch. I end up investing in crypto, and then Bitcoin just start going down. I'm like, why the fuck I just do that? I could have invested in that watch. That's whole value. That value is going up too. Like I wasn't listening to the book she's cause I listened to this in 2018 and I heard her say that get what you want out of life. Don't put it somewhere else because you're gonna lose it. Then you're gonna be mad you didn't get what you wanted. So fucking crazy. I'm a living witness. Hey, we all definitely got our story to tell about something. Meditation and manifestation is real. Exactly.
Afford a Thanksgiving dinner. She had the money, but decided to save it. A few days later, someone entered her room and took from the bureau drawer the exact amount that dinner would have cost. The law always stands back of the man who spends fearlessly with wisdom. For example, one of my students was shopping with her little nephew. The child clamored for a toy, which she told him she could not afford to buy. She realized suddenly that she was seeking lack and not recognizing God as her supply. So she bought.
She said something in that clip. Spend fearlessly with wisdom. Me before I used to spend it wasn't with wisdom. It was just I was just spending on dumb shit that I would buy and then I'll touch it once, play with it once, and then forget about it. A Rolex, that's not something I would have just put on once. I would have been wearing that every single day. So now when I spend it's with wisdom. So just going back buy what you want, but make sure you know it's what you want. Always listen. Oh, of course, you already know. Gotta always listen to your first mind. Don't once you start second guessing it, that's when that's when you mess up. Don't ever second guess yourself.
Toy and on her way home, picked up in the street the exact amount of money she had paid for it. Man's supply is inexhaustible and unfailing when fully trusted, but faith or trust must precede the demonstration. According to your faith, be it unto you. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For faith holds the vision steady, and the adverse pictures are dissolved and dissipated. And in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Jesus Christ brought the good news, the gospel, that there was a higher law than the law of karma, and that the law transcends the law of karma. It is the law of grace, or forgiveness. It is the law which frees man from the law of cause and effect, the law of consequence, under grace and not under law. We are told that on this plane man reaps where he has not sown. The gifts of God are simply poured out upon him. All that the kingdom affords is his. This continued state of bliss awaits the man who has overcome the race, or world, thought. In the world thought there is tribulation, but Jesus Christ said, "Be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." The world thought is that of sin, sickness, and death. He saw their absolute unreality and said, "Sickness and sorrow shall pass away, and death itself, the last enemy,
Them distractions,
be overcome."
them second
We know
guessing,
now
that
from
be
a
the devil.
scientific standpoint that death could be overcome by stabbing the subconscious mind with the conviction of eternal youth and eternal life. The subconscious, being simply power without direction, carries out orders without questioning. Working under the direction of the superconscious, the Christ or God within man, the resurrection of the body would be accomplished. Man would no longer throw off his body in death. It would be transformed into the body electric, sung by Walt Whitman. For Christianity is founded upon the forgiveness of sins and an empty tomb. This ends chapter 5. Chapter 6. Casting the burden and pressing the subconscious. When man knows his own powers and the workings of his mind, his great desire is to find an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good, where simply an intellectual knowledge of the truth will not bring results. In my own case, I found the easiest way is in casting the burden. A metaphysician once explained it in this manner. He said, "The only thing that gives anything weight in nature is the law of gravitation. And if a boulder could be taken high above the planet, there would be no weight in the boulder." And this is what Jesus Christ meant when he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." He had overcome the world vibration and functioned in the fourth dimensional realm, where there's only perfection, completion, life, and joy. He said, "Come to me, all ye that are..."
And basically, that's why I call myself Mr. Perfect, because I technically operate in the fourth dimension. Like, my life is going pretty well for me. Like, everything is positive. Positive mindset. Like, you can't tell me, like, the things that I don't have ain't coming. Like, you can't tell me millions of dollars ain't coming. Like, I already seen it years ago. Like, so what you think I'm working towards? Like, I ain't doing this in vain. Like, I'm manifesting my reality into existence. As you can see, like, the person that's commenting, like, Young Thaddeus, that's Tevin, like, who I grew up with. He can tell you, like, shit, I'll be manifesting some shit. Like,
"And are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." We are also told in the 55th Psalm to cast thy
definitely
burden
walk by
upon the
faith
Lord.
and not by sight.
Many passages in the Bible state that the
You ain't gonna
battle
be able
is
to see
God's,
half
not
the stuff with
man's,
your physical
and that
eye.
man is always to stand still
That shit
and
is
see the
spiritual.
salvation of the
You
Lord.
gotta be able to see
This indicates
with your
that the
mind.
superconscious mind, or Christ within, is the department which fights man's battle and relieves him of his burdens. We see, therefore, that man violates law if he carries a burden, and a burden is an adverse thought or condition, and this thought or condition has its root in the subconscious. It seems almost impossible to make any headway directing the subconscious from the conscious or reasoning mind, as the reasoning mind, the intellect, is limited in its conceptions and filled with doubts and fears. How scientific it then is to cast the burden upon the superconscious mind or Christ within, where it is made light or dissolved into its native nothingness. For example, a woman in urgent need of money made light upon the Christ within, the superconscious, with this statement, "I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty." The belief in lack was her burden, and as she cast it upon the superconscious with its belief of plenty, an avalanche of supply was the result. We read, "The Christ in you, the hope of glory." Another example. One of my students had been given a new piano, and there was no room in her studio for it until she had moved out the old one. She was in a state of perplexity.
That's like when you hold on to baggage, you ain't gonna be able to manifest no new type of blessings in your life. That's why you gotta let shit go. Like physically and spiritually. Past, you gotta let that go. Like if it ain't affecting you today, if it already done happened, you can't change it. There's no point in holding on to it. Like 'cause that's gonna slow you down. Like that's gonna stop you from like manifesting something. So I had to let a lot go, and the shit that I did let go was things that wasn't for me, that wasn't meant for me. Like so, and which was beliefs, like shit, how I was taught, how I felt about money, how I used to think about money. Like shit, I had some negative beliefs towards money, so shit, I had to let go of all of that. Like, and it started with like reading these type of books and like applying the information and applying pressure. Like so, with your mind, you can see all things that are possible. Exactly, and you can see the things that ain't possible. Like if you really know how to like, you know what you're looking for.
She wanted to keep the old piano, but knew of no place to send it. She became desperate as the new piano was to be sent immediately. In fact, was on its way, with no place to put it. She said it came to her to repeat, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." A few moments later, her phone rang and a woman friend asked if she might rent her old piano, and it was moved out a few minutes before the new one arrived. I knew a woman whose burden was resentment. She said, "I cast this burden of resentment on the Christ within, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy."
I literally cast like all my burdens like just on God, like the universe, and I'm like, when I know like when it's like some type of deadline timeline, and like I know shit ain't in my power, I can't control it. I'm like, ain't no point in me stressing about it. Like if I can't control this shit, ain't I'm not about to fucking like kill myself over it. Like so, everything works out all the time. Like it ain't a time where like I let go and let God, and like the shit didn't work out. Like so, faith without works is dead. 100% true. Like shit. And like I said, I'm not a religious person, but I do understand the Bible is very powerful. It got some game in it. Like you can use that information. Like I'm into psychology. I'm into science. I'm into the universe. Like, but them books, boy, where you think it come from? Like it come from the mind. That Bible came from somebody's mind, thought. They say God told somebody to write the book. When have you ever heard God's voice? Like let's be honestly clear. Like me, when I was in church, like 20 something years of my life, I never heard God's voice. I always heard my voice or a voice like I knew it wasn't mine, but like at the same time, when I would read the Bible, they say God's voice. You can't even hear that. Like basically, like so. I always knew like it was a spiritual intelligence. It's something spiritual. Like it's something out there, and I know it's guiding me like wherever I'm trying to go. I don't know if it's what they say it is, cause we don't know. Like shit, you don't know what the fuck. Like, but I know something created this. Like I know I'm evolving out of this. Like so, my whole thing is like if I can't control that shit, if I'm not about to let that shit weigh me down. Like shit, people I cast people off on God, all of that shit. Like the fuck if you gonna stress me out, ain't no point in me dealing with you. Like so, or try to control the situation or try to handle the situation. Like I know I can't solve every problem. Like so, the problems I can't solve, guess what? I'm not gonna like try to sit here and like sit here and try to figure it out. I'm gonna place it on somebody who can figure it out. Like so, all my problems, I don't have problems. Like anything that so-called bad happens in my life, it's always a blessing behind that shit. Like, and I always seen the blessing, so I always see the silver lining. You gotta train your mind to be that way, think like that.
The almighty superconscious flooded the subconscious with love,
Exactly.
and her
There are
whole
so
life was
many miracle
changed.
mysteries in the
For
Bible.
years,
Clear knowledge,
resentment
you just
has held her in a state of torment and imprisoned her soul, the subconscious mind. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. I have often compared it to winding up a Victrola. We must wind ourselves up with spoken words. I've noticed, in casting the burden, after a little while, one seems to see clearly. It is impossible to have clear vision while in the throes of carnal mind. Doubts and fear poison the mind and body, and imagination runs riot, attracting disaster and disease. In steadily repeating the affirmation, I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free, the vision clears, and with it, a feeling of relief, and sooner or later comes the
hold on.
manifestation of good, be it health.
That message came in like Tevin, when you just said, do you have to cast your burdens aside to get your blessings? As soon as you said burdens, she said burdens. And then you just said yes right after that. So the question you asked, you basically just answered it. Basically. I don't know if anybody
Happiness or
else noticed that, but
supply.
I did.
One of my students once asked me to explain the darkness before the dawn. I referred in a preceding chapter to the fact that often, before the big demonstration, everything seems to go wrong, and deep depression clouds the consciousness. It means that out of the subconscious are rising the doubts and fears of the ages. These old derelicts of the subconscious rise to the surface to be put out. It is then that man should clap his cymbals like the Jehoshaphat and give thanks that he is saved, even though he seems surrounded by the enemy, the situation of lack or disease.
Taught me about
The
faith and
student
no others.
continued, how long must one remain in the dark? And I replied, until one can see in the dark. And casting the burden enables one to see in the dark. In order to impress the subconscious, active faith.
You know what's funny? The first line is God. I'm like a low key Christian, but I'm like how the Christian is supposed to be like how Jesus wanted his followers to be like. Like that's what I'm really that person. But since I'm not religious and I don't subscribe to none of that, like even though I know Jesus probably was real, like I know, because coming in this world and like how he was, like shit, he has it's so many examples afterwards. Like Nipsey Hussle, I basically like if Jesus was today, it'd probably be like somebody like Nipsey. He'd probably look like Nipsey, act like Nipsey, think like Nipsey. Like, so I understand, like, shit, he probably done reincarnated a few times. Like, so there's plenty of people who came on this planet who was that positive. Like, so I never, I'm just, I used to talk down on Jesus when I first woke up, but now I'm like, fuck that shit. He was dope as fuck. Like, anybody who came in and avoided the temptation, avoided the pitfalls, and like was still betrayed. Like shit. No wonder they always sacrificing it, motherfuckers in this on this planet. Shit, what the fuck they do? What they do back then? They sacrificed the most perfect person. Like so, of course they're gonna sacrifice a motherfucking celebrity when the world looks at the celebrity as the perfect person. Like so, fuck being a celebrity. I don't want nobody to know me if I gotta be sacrificed for y'all. Fuck that. Motherfuckers still sinning. Y'all supposed to be fucking being perfect. That was deep. How long do you need to be in the dark? As long as it takes you to see in the dark. See, you answering your own question. Like that's how long it takes to be in the dark. Until you can see, until you understand you're the light. That's how long it takes for you to be in the dark. It ain't no you can't escape the darkness. The darkness is always around. Like the sun only comes out sometimes, but overall, this planet, this universe is dark. Like, and darkness is not bad. Like that's where plants grow. That's where things grow. Like shit don't grow in the light.
You have to see the light within the dark. Facts.
Is always essential. Faith without works is dead. In these chapters, I've endeavored to bring out this point. Jesus
Pretty
Christ
sure
showed active faith
Tevin said
when
that earlier.
he
Faith without
commanded the
works is dead.
multitude to sit down on the ground before he gave thanks
Synchronicities
for the
right there.
loaves and fishes. I will give another example showing how necessary this step is. In fact, active faith is the bridge over which man passes to his promised land. Through misunderstanding, a woman had been separated from her husband whom she loved deeply. He refused all offers of reconciliation and would not communicate with her in any way. Coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she denied the appearance of separation. She made this statement: "There is no separation in divine mind. Therefore, I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right." She showed active faith by arranging a place for him at the table every day, thereby impressing the subconscious with a picture of his return. Over a year passed, but she never wavered, and one day he walked in. The subconscious is often impressed through music. Music has a fourth dimensional quality and releases the soul from imprisonment. It makes wonderful things seem possible and easy of accomplishment. I have a friend who uses her Victrola daily for this purpose. It puts her in a perfect harmony and releases the imagination. Another woman often dances while making her affirmations. The rhythm and harmony of music and motion carry her words forth with tremendous power. The student must also remember not to despise the day of small things. Invariably, before a demonstration come, signs of land. Before Columbus reached America, he saw birds and twigs, which showed him land was near. So it is with a demonstration, but often the student mistakes it for the demonstration itself and is disappointed. For example, a woman had spoken the word for a set of dishes. Not long afterwards, a friend gave her a dish which was old and cracked.
100% true.
She came to me and said,
100% true, Tevin. There's so many truths in so many religions. That's why I don't knock none of them. Shit, I'd rather be able to learn from all of them. Like I just don't. I'm just not gonna sit in the church. I'm not gonna be there every Sunday. But I can. I see what you got to say. I'm gonna learn your the teachings because I'm trying to evolve about this motherfucker. So shit. I don't. Only reason I truly knock religions is because there's so much like negativity like that's in that shit, and it's so. It's supposed to be the top tier. That's what everybody's supposed to follow, but it's so much bullshit within it. Like like not to say it's bad. I'm pretty sure the basis of religion wasn't built off negativity. Like that's what it just evolved to because niggas ain't shit. Like so. Not just saying black people, but niggas ain't shit. People.
"Well, I asked for a set of dishes, and all I got was a cracked plate." I replied, "The plate was only a sign of land. It shows your dishes are coming. Look upon it as a bird and seaweed." And not long afterwards, the dishes came. Continually making believe impresses the subconscious. If one makes believe he is rich and makes believe he is successful, in due time he will reap. Children are always making believe. "And except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." For example,
That's why I have a lot of kids. My children teaches me to stay young. Like they have the wildest imaginations, and I got the wildest imagination with them. Like, but as most kids grow up, like, and they have imaginations, they parents say, "Why are you always lying? Why you always making up shit? Stop telling stories." Like, so it kills the kid's imagination. No, you're supposed to continue that. You're supposed to let that flow, let that go. Like, that's why motherfuckers can't manifest because they don't got no type of imagination. And so, like, so I was answering dancing tonight. Oh, my bad. But yeah, like motherfuckers don't got no imagination. You gotta be like a kid, act like a kid. Like shit. Even though the Bible said you think like a kid, then like you certain I forgot what that. The Bible has a lot of contradictions, but at the same time, us humans are a whole big fucking contradiction. So that Bible just reflects us and who we are within. Like so.
I know of a woman who was very poor, but no one could make her feel poor. She earned a small amount of money from rich friends who constantly reminded her of her poverty and to be careful and saving. Regardless of their admonitions, she would spend all her earnings on a hat or make someone a gift and be in a rapturous state of mind. Her thoughts were always centered on beautiful clothes and rings and things, but without envying others. She lived in a world of the wondrous, and only riches seemed real to her. Before long, she married a rich man, and rings and things became visible. I do not know whether the man was the divine selection, but opulence had to manifest in her life, as she had imaged only opulence. There is no peace or happiness for man until he has erased all fears from the subconscious.
You found out what was
Fear is
really your
misdirected
life.
energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith. I am asked so often by my students, how can I get rid of fear? I reply, by walking up to the things you are afraid of. The lion takes its fierceness from your fear. Walk up to the lion and he will disappear. Run away and he runs after you. I have shown in previous chapters how the lion of lack disappeared when the individual spent money fearlessly, showing faith that God was his supply and therefore unfailing. Many of my students have come out of the bondage of poverty and are now bountifully supplied through losing all fear of letting money go out. The subconscious is impressed with the truth that God is the giver and the gift. Therefore, as one is one with the giver, he is one with the gift. A splendid statement is, I now thank God, the giver, for God, the gift. Man has so long separated himself from his good and his supply, through thoughts of separation and lack, that sometimes it takes dynamite to dislodge these false beliefs from the subconscious, and the dynamite is a big situation. We see in the foregoing illustration how the individual was freed from his bondage by showing fearlessness. Man should always watch himself hourly to detect if his motive for action is fear or faith. Choose ye this day whom we shall serve, fear or faith. Perhaps one's fear is of personality. Then do not avoid the people feared. Be willing to meet them cheerfully, and they will either prove golden links in the chain of one's good or disappear harmoniously from one's pathway. Perhaps one's fear is of disease or germs. Then one should be fearless and undisturbed in a germ-laden situation, and he would be immune. One can only contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ, and fear drags men down to the level of the germ. Of course, the disease-laden germ is the product of carnal mind, as all thought must objectify. Germs do not exist in the superconscious or divine mind, therefore are the product of man's vain imagination. In the
I hate
twinkling
when
of
I
an
get
eye,
smoke in my eyes.
man's
That shit be
release will
burning
come
like a
when he
motherfucker.
realizes there is no power in evil. The material world will fade away, and the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous, will swing into manifestation. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And this ends chapter 6. Chapter 7, Love. Every man on this planet is taking his initiation in love. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. Uspensky states in Tertium Organum that love is a cosmic phenomenon. It opens to man the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous. Real love is selfless and free from fear. It pours itself out upon the object of its affection without demanding any return. Its joy is in the joy of giving. Love is God in manifestation, and the strongest magnetic force in the universe. Pure, unselfish love draws to itself its own. It does not need to seek or demand. Scarcely anyone has the faintest conception of real love. Man is selfish, tyrannical, or fearful in his affections, thereby losing the thing he loves. Jealousy is the worst enemy of love, for the imagination runs riot, seeing the loved one attracted to another, and invariably these fears objectify if they are not neutralized. For example, a woman came to me in deep distress. The man she loved had left her for other women, and said he never intended to marry her. She was torn with jealousy and resentment, and said she hoped he would suffer as he had made her suffer, and added, "How could he leave me when I loved him so much?"
Story time. About this subject right here, love. So, me being 19, new to the military, I had my son. I was with my son's mom, of course. Like, so we was high school sweethearts. Me being in the military, like, and she being back home in Gary, like, I was a cheater, of course. Like, that's who I was. I was a pretty boy, had money, and didn't give a damn about responsibilities at the time. Like, wrong mindset. Like, so I had broke up with her for the simple fact I knew I wasn't man enough to be like with her at the time. Like, I didn't do it. Like, it always in the back of my head, I'm like, we're gonna get back together. Like, I just don't want to be like in a different state and just continuously doing her wrong. Like, I was trying to think ahead of time. I was trying to do the right thing, but it ended up not working out in my favor. Like, so she ended up telling me, like, after I had broke up with her, like, she was praying like what I'd done to her, like leaving her like single, being a single mom, which I wasn't even thinking at the time. Like, I didn't even understand like how I was making her a single mom by breaking up with her. I thought I was still like dad, like still my son's father. Like, but I didn't understand the psychology of what you do to them when you break up, especially when y'all had a child. Like, so it was never my intentions to do that, but 19-year-old me didn't have a mature enough brain to understand what I was doing. Like, but when she told me, like, she had prayed like that I would get my karma and to understand, like, I got that by meeting my ex-wife who like was cheating on me when I was in Afghanistan. Like, the karma really came like way worse than what I thought. But even when it was happening, I always knew about the law of karma. So like I always knew like only reason I'm getting cheated on is because I was cheating on my baby mama. Like, so I couldn't truly be mad at my ex-wife for doing what she was doing when I was in a whole nother country. Like, and I was always like still me. Like, it wasn't like I was trying to be faithful to her. It was like I kind of settled for that situation. Like, so I got my karma, like based off like how my son's mom was like, nah, I wanted you to like feel what I felt. And I got that, like, and I understood, like, shit, can't just be around, like, making babies and breaking hearts, like, and that's what I was known to do. Like, so
Replied, "You are not loving
doing
that man.
the work
You are
as you
hating
are
him."
meditating and
And added,
manifestation. The
"You
things
can
that
never
you
receive
want.
what you have never given. Give a perfect love, and you will receive a perfect love.
Yeah,
Perfect
meditation and
yourself on this
manifestation.
man. Give him a perfect, unselfish love, demanding nothing in return. Do not criticize or condemn, and bless him wherever he is." She replied, "No, I won't bless him unless I know where he is," she said. "Well," I said, "that is not real love. When you send out real love will return to you, either from this man or his equivalent. For if this man is not the divine selection, you will not want him. As you are one with God, you are one with the love which belongs to you by divine right." Several months passed, and matters remained about the same, but she was working conscientiously with herself. I said, "When you are no longer disturbed by his
Fear can
cruelty,
kill a
he will
dream
cease to be
faster than
cruel,
anything. It
as you
sure
are
can.
attracting it through your own emotions."
Sure can.
Then I told her of a brotherhood in India who never said good morning to each other. They used these
Fear
words,
and doubt.
"I salute the
Shit.
divinity in you." They saluted the divinity in every man and in the wild animals in the jungle, and they were never harmed, for they saw only God in every living thing. I said, salute the divinity in this man and say, I see your divine self only. I see you as God sees you, perfect, made in his image
I
and
get what you
likeness.
mean.
She found she was becoming more poised, and gradually losing her resentment. He was a captain, and she always called him the Cap. One day she said suddenly, God bless the Cap wherever he is. I replied, now that is real love. And when you have become a complete circle and are no longer disturbed by the situation,
Do you understand like that? Like that what real love is? Like most women, most men, like when they partner go out, they automatically start thinking negatives. Like start thinking the positive. Like stop thinking the worst situation because guess what you only manifested? You only manifested the worst situation. Like so me like when I first started learning about the law of attraction, like I truly wasn't shit because I'm like, man, well my wife would like have dreams about me like doing shit. I would tell her like, "Hey, you only manifesting this, like you only bringing this on up into your own life. Like it ain't me. I'm trying to do right, but you keep manifesting. You keep thinking about it. Like so, I was definitely wasn't shit. Like, but now I don't have that problem. I don't have that issue. But this is just my journey. We all go through shit.
you will have his love or attract its equivalent. I was moving at this time and did not have a telephone, so was out of touch with her for a few weeks. When one morning I received a letter saying, we are married. At the earliest opportunity, I paid her a call. My first words were, what happened? Oh, she exclaimed, a miracle. One day I woke up and all suffering had ceased. I saw him that evening and he asked me to marry him. We were married in about a week, and I've never seen a more devoted man. There is an old saying, no man is your enemy, no man is your friend, every
Every
man
man
is
is
your
your teacher.
teacher. So one should become impersonal and learn what each man has to teach him, and soon he would learn his lesson and be free. The woman's lover was teaching her selfless love, which every man sooner or later must learn. Suffering is not necessary for man's development. It is the result of violation of spiritual law, but few people seem able to rouse themselves from their soul sleep without it. When people are happy, they usually become selfish, and automatically the law of karma is set in action. Man often suffers loss through lack of appreciation. I knew a woman who had a very nice husband, but she said often, I don't care anything about being married, but that is nothing against my husband. I'm simply not interested in married life. She had other interests and scarcely remembered she had a husband. She only thought of him when she saw him. One day, her husband told her he was in love with another woman and left. She came to me in distress and resentment. I replied, it is exactly what you spoke the word for. You said you didn't care anything about being married, so the subconscious worked to get you unmarried.
See, we all get what we ask for, like everything, like the little things you tell yourself, the little things you say, whether you joke or not, the things you repeat are the things you manifest. Like, so be careful what you wish for, be careful what you ask for. And even understand, like, everything you get is truly what you want, bad or good. It's what you low key want, ask for. Like, so you can't get mad at the world, can't get mad at nobody else but yourself like and do better. Like see me understanding like how the law works and how the world works. Like I understand. I don't manifest dumb shit in my life. I don't manifest like uh shit that I don't want to go through in my life. Like so I had to learn that lesson. I had to bump my head quite a few times before I understood like and got it down pat. But now like I don't have those same problems I did when I was in my 20s. So most people they be 40, 50, 60 still doing the same shit going through the same things because they never learned the test, they never learned the lesson they were supposed to learn. And that's where reincarnation comes into play, like shit repeating the same cycles. Like so that's what truly what hell is like when you come back here and you go through this life. It sucks until you fucking learn your lesson and then you able to evolve, you able to have heaven on earth. Most people live in hell or jail. Me, like I see it quite different, quite opposite. So Yeah, manifest the life you truly want by like taking control of your thoughts in your mind.
She said, "Oh, yes, I see. People get what they want and often feel very much hurt." She soon became in perfect harmony with the situation and knew they were both much happier apart. When a woman becomes indifferent or critical and ceases to be an inspiration to her husband, he misses the stimulus of the early relationship and is restless and unhappy. A man came to me dejected, miserable, and poor. His wife was interested in the science of numbers and had had him read. It seems the report was not very favorable, for he said, "My wife says I'll never amount to anything because I am a two." I replied, "I don't care what your number is. You are a perfect idea in divine mind, and we will demand the success and prosperity which are already planned for you by the infinite intelligence." Within a few weeks, he had a very fine position, and a year or two later, he achieved a brilliant success as a writer. No man is a success in a business unless he loves his work. The picture the artist paints for love of his art is his greatest work. The pot boiler is always something to live down. No man can attract money if he despises it. Many people are kept in poverty by saying, "Money means nothing to me, and I have a contempt for people who have it." This is the reason so many artists are poor. Their contempt for money.
That right there brought me to J. Cole in this song called Rich Niggas. And he said, I hate rich niggas, god damn it, because I ain't never had a lot, damn it. Like, and I used to resonate with that song until I started trying to get rich, like started to get on this journey to become a rich person myself. Then I'm like, damn, what's the point of me hating them for it? Because they got it. Like, yeah, I had negative thoughts about money. I didn't want to be rich. I wanted to be content. I wanted to be like happy with what I had. But as I grew older and realized, like, shit, I don't want this. I don't want what I don't want to just settle. I don't want to just live in the same hometown I grew up in, like, and never accomplish nothing. Like, so I got motivated to like get some money and get rich for myself. And then like now I understand like shit the perspective of a rich man, like of a wealthy person. Even though I'm not a millionaire or a multi-millionaire yet. Well, yes, I am. Let me not speak nothing negative into my life.
Separates them from it. I remember hearing one artist say of another, "He's no good as an artist, he has money in the bank." This attitude of mind, of course, separates man from his supply. He must be in harmony with a thing in order to attract it. Money is God in manifestation, as freedom from want and limitation, but it must always be kept in circulation and put to right uses. Hoarding and saving react with grim vengeance. This does not mean that man should not have houses and lots, stocks and bonds, for the barns of the righteous man shall be full. It means man should not hoard even the principal, if an occasion arises, when money is necessary, and letting it go out fearlessly and cheerfully, he opens the way for more to come in. For God is man's unfailing and inexhaustible supply. This is the spiritual attitude towards money, and the great bank of the universe never fails. We see an example of hoarding in the film production of Greed. The woman won $5,000 in a lottery, but would not spend it. She hoarded and saved, let her husband suffer and starve, and eventually she scrubbed floors for a living. She loved the money itself and put it above everything, and one night she was murdered and the money taken from her. This is an example of where love of money is the root of all evil. Money in itself is good and beneficial, but used for destructive purposes, hoarded and saved, or considered more important than love, brings disease and disaster and the loss of money itself. Follow.
See, they don't never go into context when they say money is the root of all evil, but like when she goes into context and says she loved money more than she loved her husband, like she'd rather let him struggle than like to like so yeah, when you love money like that and you put it above everything else, that's gonna be your demise. Like shit, 5,000 in like the 1800s, 1900s, like that, probably like 50,000 around. Like so, that was a lot of money, but still, like I don't value money that much where I value over my wife and my kids. Like, well, my wife, like, shit, fuck that shit. Money comes probably third in my life. Like, so, but I do like love money. Like, but I'm a wise person, so I'm not like that lady.
Path of love, and all things are added. For God is love, and God is supply. Follow the path of selfishness and greed, and the supply vanishes, or man is separated from it. For example, I knew the case of a very rich woman who hoarded her income. She rarely gave anything away, but bought and bought things for herself. She was very fond of necklaces, and a friend once asked her how many she possessed. She replied 67. She bought them and put them away, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. Had she used the necklaces, it would have been quite legitimate. But she was violating the law of use. Her closets were filled with clothes she never wore, and jewels which never saw the light. The woman's arms were gradually becoming paralyzed from holding on to things, and eventually she was considered incapable of looking after her affairs, and her wealth was handed over to others to manage. So man, in ignorance of the law,
Yeah, what happened to my
and
video?
happiness come from the violation of the law of love. Man's boomerangs of hate, resentment, and criticism come back laden with sickness and sorrow. Love seems almost a lost art, but the man with the knowledge of spiritual law knows it must be regained, for without it he has become as surrounding brass and tinkling cymbals. For example, I had a student who came to me, month after month, to clean her consciousness of resentment. After a while, she arrived at the point where she resented only one woman, but that one woman kept her busy. Little by little, she became poised and harmonious, and one day, all resentment was wiped away. She came in radiant and exclaimed, "You can't understand how I feel." The woman said something to me, and instead of being furious, I was loving and kind. And she apologized and was perfectly lovely to me. No one can understand the marvelous lightness I feel within. Love and goodwill are invaluable in business. For example, a woman came to me complaining of her employer. She said she was cold and critical, and she did not want her in the position. Well, I replied, salute the divinity in the woman and send her love. She said, I can't, she's a marble woman. I answered, you remember the story of the sculptor who asked for a certain piece of marble. He was asked why he wanted it, and he replied, because there's an angel in the marble, and out of it he produced a wonderful work of art. She said, very well, I'll try it. A week later, she came back and said, I did what you told me to, and now the woman is very kind and took me out in her car. People are sometimes filled with remorse for having done someone an unkindness, perhaps years ago. If the wrong cannot be righted, in effect cannot be neutralized by doing someone a kindness in the present. This one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto things where are before. Sorrow, regret, and remorse tear down the cells of the body and poison the atmosphere of the individual. A woman said to me in deep sorrow, treat me to be happy and joyous, for my sorrow makes me so irritable with members of my family that I keep making more karma. I was asked to treat a woman who was mourning for her daughter. I denied all belief in loss and separation, and affirmed that God was the woman's joy, love, and the woman gained her poise at once, but sent word by her son not to treat any longer because she was so happy it wasn't respectable. So mortal mind loves to hang on to its griefs and regrets. I knew a woman who went about bragging of her troubles, so of course she always had something to brag about. The old idea was if a woman did not worry about her children, she was not a good mother. Now we know that mother fear is responsible for many of the diseases and accidents which come into the lives of children. For fear pictures vividly the disease or situation feared, and these pictures objectify if not neutralized. Happy is the mother who can say sincerely that she puts her child in God's hand and knows therefore that he is divinely protected. For example, a woman awoke suddenly in the night feeling her brother was in great danger. Instead of giving in to her fears, she commenced making statements of truth, saying, man is a perfect idea in divine mind, and is always in his right place, therefore my brother is in his right place and is divinely protected. The next day, she found that her brother had been in close proximity to an explosion in a mine, but had miraculously escaped. So man is his brother's keeper, in thought.
Literally, she could have easily thought something negative about, like, she could have thought the worst when she had that negative feeling about her brother, but she chose to think positive. And these are true stories. This is not like just fairy tale like story. Like, this is real things happening. Like, so understand the power of your mind and like thinking positive, because you can kill somebody with your mind. Like, you don't have to pull a trigger. You don't have to stab nobody and blow somebody up. You can use your mind, depending on how powerful you are, to murder somebody. Like, shit is fucking crazy. You will definitely be rich soon.
And every man should know that the thing he loves dwells in the secret place of the Most High, and abides under the shadow of the Almighty.
Facts,
There shall
physically,
no evil befall thee,
because we
neither shall any
already
plague
rich
come nigh thy
spiritually.
dwelling. Perfect love casteth out fear. He that feareth is not made perfect in love, and love is the fulfilling of the law. This ends chapter 7. Chapter 8. Intuition or Guidance. There is nothing too great of accomplishment for the man who knows the power of his word, and who follows his intuitive leads. By the word he starts in action, unseen forces can rebuild his body or remold his affairs. It is, therefore, of the utmost importance to choose the right words, and the student carefully selects the affirmations he wishes to catapult into the invisible. He knows that God is his supply, that there is a supply for every demand, and that his spoken word releases this supply. Ask, and ye shall receive. Man must make the first move. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. I've often been asked just how to make a demonstration. I reply, speak the word, and then do not do anything until you get a definite lead. Demand the lead, saying, Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the way. Let me know if there's anything for me to do. The answer will come through intuition or hunch, a chance remark from someone, or a passage in a book, etc. The answers are sometimes quite startling in their exactness. For example, a woman
If you're new
desired a
to the
large sum
live,
of
give this
money.
video a thumbs up.
She spoke
I
the
really
words,
appreciate it.
Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance. Then she added, Give me a definite lead. Let me know if there's anything for me to do. The thought came quickly. Give a certain friend who had helped her spiritually $100. She told her friend, who said, Wait and get another lead before giving it. So she waited, and that day met a woman who said to her, I gave someone $1 today. It was just as much for me as it would be for you to give someone 100. This was indeed an unmistakable lead. So she knew she was right in giving the $100. It was a gift which proved a great investment. For shortly after that, a large sum of money came to her in a remarkable way. Giving opens the way for receiving. In order to create activity in finances, one should give. Tithing, or giving 1/10 of one's income, is an old Jewish custom and is a sure way to bring increase.
Did y'all hear that? Tithing 1/10 is an old Jewish custom. It is not like how they is when you're in church and you supposed to. They say you're supposed to pay your tithes and offering. Yes, it's good to pay like give, but that's not no Bible stuff. That's not no Jesus stuff. That like that's some Jewish things. But I'm not knocking it. Like, you supposed to give. Like, so I understand it. Like, hey,
Many of the richest men in the country have been tithers, and I've never known it to fail as an investment. The 10th part goes forth and returns blessed and multiplied, but the gift or tithe must be given with love and cheerfulness, for God loveth a cheerful giver. Bills should be paid cheerfully. All money should be sent forth fearlessly and with a blessing. This added
most people pay their bills and they hate it. Like, they always complain when they pay their bills. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Be happy that you're paying your bills and watch more money manifest. Like me, when I give to people, I don't just give them like dollars. Like, when somebody asks me for money off the street, Like whatever change, like whatever is in my pocket, I may not give you the hundreds, like, but I may give you a 20. I may give you $15, like 17, like randomly. I give that if that's in my pocket, like so, and I give happily. I have to give knowing like I don't have to worry about this person like say, hey, can I borrow it, and them not never paying me back. Like I know I get blessed for doing things like that, and I don't need no camera. I don't need nobody knowing what I do. I'm just speaking on that because of like the book.
Of mine makes man master of money. It is his to obey, and his spoken word then opens vast reservoirs of wealth. Man himself limits his supply by his
Obviously,
limited
I'm
vision.
doing
Sometimes a
something right
student has
when
a
the
great
trolls
realization of
start
wealth,
showing
but is
up.
afraid to act. The vision and action must go hand in hand, as in the case of the man who bought the fur-lined overcoat. A woman came to me asking me to speak the word for a position, so I demanded, Infinite Spirit, open the way for this woman's right position. Never ask for just a position. Ask for the right position, the place already planned in divine mind, as it is the only one that will give satisfaction. I then gave thanks that she had already received, and that it would manifest quickly. Very soon she had 3 positions offered her, 2 in New York and 1 in Palm Beach, and she did not know which to choose. I said, ask for a definite lead. The time was almost up and was still undecided, when one day she
I'm actually
telephoned.
going pretty longer
When I
than
woke
what
up
I
this morning, I
expected,
could
what I thought
smell
I would be
Palm
going.
Beach.
So,
She
like,
had been there
shout out to
before
that.
and knew
Like,
its balmy fragrance.
I only
I
expect for
replied,
like true
well, if you
start
can smell
popping up.
Palm Beach from here, it is certainly
It
your
getting to
lead.
them late
She
night
accepted the
hours, like
position, and it
motherfucking
proved a great
creeps is only
success.
on motherfucking. I
Often, one's
not tell
lead
y'all,
comes at
but
an
like
unexpected time.
motherfucking random
One
people just
day, I was
popping
walking
up
down the
saying dumb
street
shit. Like,
when I suddenly felt a strong
I ain't got
urge
shit
to
else to
go to a
do.
certain bakery, a block or two away. The reasoning mind resisted arguing. There's nothing there that you want. However, I had learned not to reason, so I went to the bakery, looked at everything, and there was certainly nothing there that I wanted. But coming out, I encountered a woman I had thought of often, and who was in great need of the help which I could give her. So often, one goes for.
But I am about to hop off live though. Like that person, that love face, whatever it is, just gave that was my sign, like to hop off live. Like, but now more people coming in, so I'm like, should I hop off now? Like, but I am gonna stop the book right there. Like, it's a less than an hour left on that, so I want to bring a part 2 tomorrow. Like, with this book, then we can finish it up. Like, so it was a dope night. Like, it's a dope book. I love this book. I don't know how many times I read this book. Like, what should be, I mean? Should we read The Alchemist? Like, should I do The Alchemist next? I wanted to do the Celestine Prophecy, but that's more of a story book. That's not like Think and Grow Rich or this book. Like so, but it still rings true for like just what's going on in the world today. So I'll just go off with my intuition because I didn't know I was gonna play this one until I before I hopped up on the live. Like so, I'm gonna just follow my intuition. Whatever book comes next, whatever I feel like, we're gonna go that way. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in with me tonight. It was more people than what I expected. Really appreciate it. I'm gonna be back tomorrow. Like hopefully I'm gonna be back a little earlier. Like so, yeah, we out. Peace.